Hey, this is Raulh of Please Act Right, and welcome to the final episode of Why I Had to Leave This Beautiful Woman. In the previous video, I let her convince me to move back into the apartment with her because she claimed she would no longer mistreat me with her getting mad at me over stupid-ish anymore, and I believed her. Well, her promise didn't last that long. A few weeks after I moved back in, she started again when I made a long-distance phone call back to Chicago, my hometown, which I did every month. At this point, I was fed up with her. It had been a little over a year that I'd been putting up with her and her nonsense, and I was finally at the end of my rope. She only had one more time to flip out on me, and I was out. Well, the following Saturday, I was sitting at the dining room table reading. Miss Angry All the Time came in the living room, lit a cigarette, took 2 pulls, put it in the ashtray, and set it down. Then she went into our room and started vacuuming. Now you're probably thinking, big deal, right? Well, it was a big deal. Instead of her setting the ashtray at the table where I was sitting, she sat it down on the carpet. Yes, the carpet. If she wasn't gonna smoke the whole cigarette, then why did she light it? She smoked Virginia Slims. You know those long cigarettes? The ones that are so long, when you put them in the ashtray, half of it would hang out of the ashtray. I'm sitting there thinking, how stupid can you be? Well, I continued to read my book. A few minutes later, I noticed that the cigarette teeter-totted and it rolled off onto the carpet. A few minutes after that, she turned off the vacuum cleaner and came into the dining room. Raulh, why did you watch my cigarette? It's burning the carpet. Now, why would I watch your cigarette? If you weren't gonna smoke it, then why did you light it and go into the other room? Now look, y'all, seriously, the lease was in her name. So if she burned the carpet and they wanted her to pay for it, that would be her responsibility, not mine. I could care less. As long as it didn't catch on fire, she was on her own. She looked at me with anger in her face while picking the cigarette off the carpeting and making sure that the carpet was not on fire. Now there was a small burn, but it was a shag-like carpet with a dark color, so you couldn't see it anyway. She put the cigarette out, and as a result, she stopped talking to me, period. Wow, she's mad at me because she was being irresponsible. Man, look, at this point, I was way past looking out for her. I'm doing the bare minimum, you know, just enough to get by, because that's all she's getting from me. She shouldn't have lit the damn cigarette in the first place. Well, 6 days went by, and she didn't say one word to me. The following Sunday came, and she went to the store and bought some incense and an incense holder. The TV in our living room was a floor model TV, and on top of it sat the VCR. Now, for all you young folks out there, a VCR is what we used to use to watch videos before they invented the DVD player. I went to take a shower, and when I came back in the living room, I realized she lit the incense, put it in the holder, and sat it on top of the VCR, an electronic device. Now, on top of the VCR, there were vent holes so the unit could breathe and wouldn't overheat, which was where the ashes from the incense would go if it fell off the holder. For the past week, we didn't say a word to each other, but this is where I had to break my silence. You can't leave anything burning on top of anything electrical. If the ashes fall into the vents of the VCR to catch on fire, I put it in the holder. It could still fall off. Put it on the kitchen counter or the dining room table or in the sink, so if it falls off, it won't burn anything. Whatever, she said. Can you believe this? Now, this is supposed to be a so-called adult. I tell her she's doing something that can cause a fire, and she replies, whatever. Wow. The next day, Monday, I left the apartment just before she did to go to work at my job at the mechanic shop. When I got 10 minutes away from the apartment, I realized I left my badge. I had to go back. When I got to the apartment, she had already left. I entered the apartment and went straight to our room, grabbed my badge, and headed back to the door. As I reached for the doorknob, I caught a whiff of fresh-smelling, burning incense. I looked over at the TV and noticed an upward stream of smoke. I saw the incense holder, but where's the incense? I walked over to the TV and I couldn't believe my eyes. This woman lit the incense, stuck it in the holder, and left the apartment to go to work, even after I warned her yesterday of the danger of doing that. Well, she didn't stick the incense all the way in the holder, so it fell out and rolled onto the VCR, just like I told her it would. I looked down through the vents and I could see the electrical circuit panel and all the resistors with hot, burning ashes on them. Now, I don't know if you know it or not, but fire and electricity do not mix. You never leave anything lit in the house and leave, especially on top of something electrical. What was this woman trying to do, burn the damn building down? When I got to work, I called her to ask her why she would do something like that, especially after I just told her what could happen. And she yelled, I left the incense in the holder. When I told her that it fell off onto the VCR and that the burning hot ashes were inside, then she replies, how was I supposed to know it was gonna fall off? No matter how much I tried to get this woman to understand you can't leave anything burning and leave the house, the more she got offended and made like it was no problem to do it. Man, I just said goodbye and hung up the phone. This woman has lost her mind. I went back to working on the car that I started on before I called her, and that's when the older gentleman I worked with asked me what was wrong. I began to tell him about all the silly things that she did and got mad at me over, that I had no control over, and how she wouldn't speak to me for days on end. And that's when he gave me the Bible verse, Proverbs 21:19. It was hard enough dealing with her mood swing, but for her to put our neighbors in jeopardy, that's a whole nother level. The building we live in, it was a 4-unit building. We were on the 2nd floor. If our apartment caught on fire, the fire department would spray water to put it out and gravity would take over. And the apartment downstairs would get ruined with a downpour of water. Not to mention that all the other units could catch on fire also. This was the common sense I was trying to get her to understand. When we got home, I didn't say a word to her about it. After reading the Bible verse, I already had my mind made up. I was done with this crazy chick. The next day, I got up and I left for work, just like I did on any other day, or at least she thought I was going to work. I parked the car on the other side of the parking lot and waited for her to leave. After she left, I circled back and I packed all my stuff in my car. I left the keys on the counter with $60 to cover the phone bill and a note that read, Proverbs 21:19. It is better to dwell in the wilderness than with a contentious and angry woman. I love you, but I can't deal with you anymore. I got in my car and I headed back to Chicago. Funny thing though, after I got settled back in Chicago, she actually had the nerve to call me twice and ask me to come back. Can you believe this chick? And of course, I never went back. I should have left her a long time ago. That was in 1991. Now fast forward to 2019, and her daughter, who was 8 years old at the time, who is now 39 years old, found me on Facebook. We talked on the phone for hours, and she told me how her mother did the same thing with 3 different men after me. Now they didn't live together, but she put them through the same nonsense. She said, my mother had the best taste in men, but she had some serious mental problems. She then informed me that right after I left, she moved back in with her grandparents, and she stayed with them until she was 19 and could move out on her own. She said her mother would claim that she quit job after job because the people she worked with were nothing but trouble, only to find out later on that she was getting fired because she was the problem, not the other people. She said that she had to completely break contact with her mother because she was always fussing at her for no good reason, just like she did me, even as she became an adult. And I have no reason to doubt her. To this day, I thank God I did not marry that woman, or I would have possibly ruined my life. I have no doubt that if I filed for divorce, she would have told the judge that I was the reason for us not getting along, and she would have gotten alimony from me. So let this series be a lesson to all of you all. If you're being abusive to your significant other, and they're being abusive to you in return, you deserve each other. However, if you're the type of person who's being good to your significant other, and they're constantly mistreating you, pack it up and leave. You deserve to be treated the same way you treat them. Never hang around or allow someone to abuse you. Back then, I was young and I didn't know any better. But you best believe I learned my lesson from that. You got one time to be abusive to me, and I tell you to stop and you keep doing it, I'm out. Deuces, peace. And I'd like to end by saying this. For those of you all who saw the first video before I made this series, you told me that I shouldn't have left while she was at work and that I should have sat her down and talked to her. Now do you see the nonsense this woman put me through before I finally packed up and left? In the first video, I clearly stated that this woman was mad at me over some nonsense 4 days every single week. But you still say that I should have handled it differently. But what I really found interesting was you never said she should have conducted herself differently. You instantly put it on me when she was the one that was being the problem. And I made that obvious in the first video. And I also want you to keep in mind, I only gave you a sample of the nonsense this woman put me through over that year. Or should I say, let her put me through. So to my ex, who I made this video about, if you're watching, I'd love for you to tell your side of the story. I'll be more than happy to oblige you. As long as you agree to film you telling your side of the story and post it publicly on your or my YouTube channel. Then let's both take a lie detector test, which I'm more than willing to pay for, and allow me to video record the whole thing and put it on my channel. So if you're watching, reach out to me through my email. I can't wait to hear from you. And for the rest of you all, thank you so much for watching my series. My name is Raulh. See you in another video. So if you enjoyed this video, check out one of these 2 videos right here. I'm sure you'll enjoy them too. And if you like, you can visit my channel. I have plenty of videos there. Go ahead. Don't be scared.